So we have a second part of repair here. Yeah, so first part was a missing resistor from the sense signal from PCI Express 8 pin, which was basically connected to this emitter. You can see it here if you're interested. Not now. Oh, I swap it. So this is basically 6 pin, this is 8 pin. So this is 8 pin. And there was a resistor here. 0 ohm resistor. Yeah. And yeah, these cards, they were like job lot. It looks like they were returned. They were returned from maybe customers or maybe somewhere where they built computers, and I got more of them, and some of them missing parts. So people are really not careful. They, you know, if they knock this, put it somewhere on the table, on the tweezers or whatever they got there, they can knock off these things, obviously. So, but this looks like this was like secondary things, because if it is in use, there is no basically reason to knock something off, especially the card which was used for a while. But it was used just for a short time, and I guess there was another fault, and it was intermittent booting, so that's why it was somewhere on the table. It was problematic. It was returned, and it spent way more time on the table on the shelf, and then it's probably way hard that something is knock off. Other card I get from them, they got knock off components as well. Some of them they knock off components because they just didn't pack it well, so you can imagine how they treat those cards. Yeah, so but back to fault. So we got this card connected. I draw the schematic. Basically, you got a sense signal from the PCI Express power connector, and you got a voltage divider from 12 volts, which is turning on this resistor, and then basically they use PCI Express 3.3 volts, PCI Express 12 volt to make sure there is a voltage from the PCI Express connector, PCI Express slot, and PCI Express power connector. And the same is for other power connector, and you got these transistors. Basically they switch and they make sure you got good voltage on the power connector, but they make sure you got good voltage on PCI Express slot. So basically that signals coming, sense is turning on this first transistor, and then you have to have a 12 volt from PCI Express. It's basically turning on this transistor, and if this one is on, this one is off, you got power good signal here, positive, power good. So this one is for 8 pin, this one is for 6 pin. So we measured both of them, and basically this one is okay. It's got short here, so this one is closed, but this one is open. So we got a problem with 6 pin. So it's got nothing to do with our secondary fault. And you can see we got this first divider here, and we got 0.9, almost 1 volt here, and that's the same on the base of transistor, you see, and we got a power sense ground. We can basically go to continuity mode. You can see, be careful, so turn it off then. So after first, yeah, normally we will have here like 0.67, 0.6, 0.7, which is voltage on the base emitter if it is on. But if you got 0.9, it's suspicious straight away. So it looks like this transistor is not good because 0.9 is just too much. There is not gonna be 0.9 unless you get like 500 milliamp, but it's not possible. You won't get that much from here because if you get, you won't hold it. It will burn your finger. So it looks like that transistor. Most likely that transistor. It can be this resistor, but it looks like this transistor is temperamental. It booted few times, so that transistor is probably painted properly, but it just got some imperfection on the chip, and it's just sometimes works, sometimes not. It's probably on the edge. There is a channel which is probably very thin inside. It's hard to say. So I will replace this transistor, and then we will see. I'm just going with you through this. So if this is if we got a positive voltage here and sense here, we should have this transistor open, and it should be very low here. It should be like 0.05, 0.1, a low current, you know, the transistor is saturated, but it got 0.6, like you can see. That's too high. It's no way there is a current flowing to the ground. So that's the thing. That current is basically coming from here. Here we got divider from 3.3 volts, and there we have 0.9, and we got 0.1. So this transistor got like 0.4. It means it's not open because 0.4 is not enough to open this transistor, and because it's not open, basically we got a high voltage here. If it is open, we got here on the collector voltage. If the transistor is saturated, probably 0.1, 0.2, because 0.7, which is basically done because you got a base emitter, it's basically lowering this voltage from 12 volts 0.7. So this one is open, and we got saturated voltage about 0.1 saturated transistor, so we don't have power good signal, and we don't have 0.9 volts. We don't have, as you can see, we don't have V core. We don't have anything because we don't have power good signal. Which was I talking about that power good signal. It's basically, here you've got a reference board. You can measure it on this resistor. This should be power good signal from this side. From other sides, I show you there was a checking point, so you can use that checking point. But from this side, this transistor is gonna have power good. This transistor, I think, has one more here. Not probably this one or this one. So it doesn't matter. So we don't have power good, and we don't have 1.8 volt, and we don't have any other voltage. So I'm gonna check. This transistor is marked W1A, which is general purpose transistor. I got some board. There is not the same transistor, but whatever transistor will do the job because this transistor just switching. So I'm gonna use, I found 1L. This is probably higher current. This is like 1 amp. That transistor is probably 0.2 amp, like that. But it doesn't really matter. This transistor is just switching, so you don't need anything special. So I'm gonna stop the transistor. We'll see. Now I'm gonna turn off this, turn on, just to see. Maybe it will boot this time. And you see it's not booting. Sometimes when I measure, touching the things around is like probably creating some field, and it's running. So yeah, remove the transistor. I will be back.